Rachel Carson, DDT, and the modern-day environmental movement. Rachel Carson was born May 27th in 1907 in Springdale, Pennsylvania. As a child, she spent a lot of time exploring nature. She won several prizes for her writing as a child and attended the Springdale Grammar School, and she decided to major in English when she went to the Pennsylvania College for Women. She wrote for the school paper The Arrow, and Broken Lamps was her most famous article, which dealt with Carson's inner struggle between deciding to pursue her passion or do what she knew could earn her a living. Her biology teacher, Mary Scott Skinker, inspired her to switch her major to biology and taught her that women could succeed without men, and also inspired Carson to pursue her education past her undergraduate career. In 1929, she was accepted to Johns Hopkins, and in 1932 she earned her master's in marine zoology. She taught at the University of Maryland from 1931 to 1933, and she worked for the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries from 1935 to 52 as an aquatic biologist. She's most well known for a series of 3 books which have been described as romantic and scientific, and she's even been compared to Henry David Thoreau. The first of these 3 books, Under the Sea Wind, was published in 1941, and it was very poetic and scientific, but it was kind of forgotten when the U.S. entered World War II. The second of these books, The Sea Around Us, was published in 1951, and it kind of skyrocketed her to fame. The theme of that book was that the sea is the womb of all life on the planet. And the third book, The Edge of the Sea, published in 1955, was just as famous as the one before it. And the theme of that book was that barring catastrophe, nature could sustain itself. Then DDT comes along, which was hailed as a miracle, and later a catastrophe that Carson warned about. DDT stands for dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane. It was discovered in 1939 by Swiss scientist Paul Mueller. Its active ingredient is chlorinated hydrocarbons, and it's an extremely effective insecticide and pesticide, which works by attacking the nervous system and causing hyperactivity and paralysis. It's also effective because it leaves a residue and retains its toxicity for a long period of time. It was used during World War II by the Allied forces to eliminate malaria and typhus. It helped prevent cases of the bubonic plague, and it helped save several major world food supplies in Switzerland, Naples, the Netherlands, and many others. It was used by farmers, government agencies, the USDA, environmental agencies, kind of everyone. But it was not used by the Axis powers because Germany didn't have access to it because it was invented by one of their enemies. Some problems with DDT are that it's applied as a dust, and as much as 2/3 of it can remain in the atmosphere. It's also hard to actually reach the pests that you're trying to spray, and it's difficult to only cover the surfaces that you want to. It also accumulates in the environment and doesn't dissipate with time. Some negative effects of DDT on birds are mutation, sterility, and thin shells. In fish, it can cause increased mortality of eggs, it inhibits their thyroid activity and causes physical abnormalities, and it is a proven carcinogen in humans, although no studies have been done since 1972 to try to trace it as a direct cause of cancer in humans. Carson's response to DDT was to write Silent Spring, which was published in 1962. It was attacked by the USDA and many major chemical companies for being false science, and it took a while for it to gain traction because of that, but it's kind of seen now as the start of the modern day environmental movement. And what it was a call for the responsible use of pesticides and to kind of wake people up to the impact that man could have on the environment. Over the next 40 years, a lot of things happened. In '64, Carson died of cancer. In '69, the EPA was formed. In 1970, we had the first Earth Day in America. In 1972, DDT was banned in the United States. We have the Oil Pollution Act in 1990, And in 2002, the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act allowed the EPA to limit pesticides left on foods. So in conclusion, DDT did save hundreds of thousands of lives, and contrary to popular belief, Rachel Carson did not crusade against its use, and her books brought conservation and preservation to the public eye for the first time really in history, and her legacy was that man just needs to be responsible and aware of his role in the world.